Thanks Nicholas and Paul and Sharon for having Centaurus along here. We've been coming here for quite a while now with a few different projects, but here today I'm going to talk to you about the Jaguar nickel sulphide project in Brazil. So no gold and no West Australian gold, so a bit of a change up. We skipped the disclaimer. Please read it at your leisure on the ASX website. So Centaurus is all about building a Brazilian strategic minerals business, and the key to that is our Jaguar nickel sulphide project that has over 1 million tonnes of contained nickel metal. And in nickel sulphide world, if you've got more than 1 million tonnes of contained nickel metal, you're a world-class asset. Now, we put a feasibility study out in August of this year that demonstrated that it is in the lowest cost quartile, which was a cost of around about $8,000 a tonne. Today, the nickel price is at what many people think the lows is about 16,000. So even at the lows of nickel price of today, this project will make money. We're going to produce around 19,000 tonnes of nickel in concentrate for around 18 plus years. If we were producing today, we'd be a top 10 nickel sulphide mine in the world. We're in Brazil, which is a great place to operate, and the key there is the cost of power and labour. So we can tap into around 3 to 4 cents a kilowatt hour power, and that drives the really low cost for this project. We're well funded, and we have a team that is experienced in building and operating nickel mines in Brazil. There's the team. Darren Gordon, who many of you may know, can't be with us. He's just got back from Brazil. We've also got Bruno Scarpelli, who is our in-country executive, so we have a good team both from Australia and Brazil. We've got a market cap of about 190 million as it stands today, and $25 million in the bank, and hopefully over the next 10 minutes I can convince you of the value proposition. I'm a geologist, I'm not a commodity picker, and I think the main takeaway today will be why we believe that the Jaguar nickel sulphide project can make money in any nickel price regime. I went to Brazil in 2005 and the nickel price was about $6,000 or $7,000 a tonne. It's got as high as 100, it's been around 30. Right now it's 16. We're going to make nickel at $8,000 a tonne. So as long as it stays above that, Jaguar will make money. And most forecasters believe it's going to stay well above that. And why can we make nickel so cheap? Well, the main driver is the fact that we're in Brazil. So BHP put its nickel assets in care and maintenance earlier this year, but that was driven by high costs, and that's high cost of power and labour. In Brazil, you're tapping into almost 100, well, right now it's around 80% renewable energy, while the time we're in production, we'll be dealing with almost 100% renewable energy, and that's great for the environment, but more importantly, that means 3 to 5 cents a kilowatt hour power, and that's what drives the low cost. The licensing process in Brazil is very simple and straightforward and laid out for us. We don't have any TOs, we just go in and talk to the government directly. We've already got our mining lease technically approved, and we've got the preliminary licence, which is the first of the 3 licences you need from an environmental perspective. Importantly, you see there we have a very favourable tax system. So we're going to be paying 15% tax, which is almost a bit less than half of what you'd pay if you were operating a mine in WA. And also the royalties that we pay, 65% of those royalties, they go back to the region. So the communities within which we work, they're keen for us to get the mine up and running. Oops. So where are we located? We're in the Carajás in the north of Brazil. For those who don't know the Carajás, it's like rolling the Pilbara and Mount Isa into one. You've got the world's second biggest ICG mine in Salobo, about 150 k's north of us, and you've got the world's biggest iron ore mine about same distance to our east. We're located in the eastern portion of the Carajás, 30 kilometres north of the towns of Tucumán and Orlando do Norte. Now these towns have a population of 70,000 people. They've been servicing the Onça Puma ferronickel plant since the early 2000s. So you've got second, third, fourth generation miners in here that are willing to work. You've also got all the service providers you need to build a plant. 15 kilometres down the road from us, a TSX-listed company called Aero Copper just completed building a 4 million tonne per annum float plant for their copper gold project, Boa Esperança. Now that's essentially the same sort of float plant we're going to build. The process route is very similar. The non-processing infrastructure is very similar. So this is the plant that we're effectively going to build starting in 2025 has been built 30 k's down the road. So we're just going to tap into the service providers and the constructors that have already built a plant very similar to this. So the feasibility study that was put out at the start of August, this was about pulling it all together. It was based off a resource, an old resource, and I will talk about a new resource we have since updated, but the feasibility study showed that we can deliver almost 19,000 tonnes of nickel in concentrate for around 18 years, and that's from open pit only. So all the resources that are sitting under the pit, they have not been included in this feasibility study. The study demonstrated that you got about a $370 million capital expense and a really low all-in sustaining cost, and that's going to be the theme for the next couple of slides, just trying to remember how low the all-in sustaining cost is compared to our competitors. That delivered a good MPV of around about 1 million Aussie dollars on a $19.8 thousand nickel price. Today's nickel price is about 16,500, and that'd be an MPV of around 600 Aussie dollars. 600 million Aussie dollars, sorry. So why can we have such a low all-in sustaining cost? Well, it's really driven by two things. One, it's the ore body itself. It's so large, it's near surface, it's relatively high grade. We don't have to go down a decline 2 kilometres to find 2 or 3% nickel. We've got 1.5%, 1% nickel outcropping at surface. We're going to mine it with conventional open cut contractors from Brazil, local guys. They just get the tyres from the mechanic down the road. And then we're going to put it through a conventional nickel float plant, similar to the one that Eurocopper built just up the road. And that's going to be powered by 3.5 cent kilowatt hour power. So all those factors lead into giving us a really low all-in sustaining cost. And when you plot that up on a payable basis, which means you get paid about 75% for the nickel that you produce, so that gets to a $4.70 all-in sustaining cost, which means around about $9,000 to $10,000 a tonne, you plot in the first quartile. And that's where you want to be. To the left of us are all the producing nickel sulphide mines like Sudbury, Norilsk, Voisey's Bay. To the right of us are all the laterite mines. So the Indonesian laterites, they're all producing at a higher cost than we are. And that's driven by that renewable power. The capital to build this is about $370 million. Most of that is in the plant, but there's also a lot of important non-processing infrastructure, tailings dams, and importantly, a 40-kilometre power line to tap into that national grid that gets us that very cheap power. And based on the mine plan for the feasibility study, which was not optimised, we can get payback completed in around 2.7 years. If you take that capital and divide it by the amount of nickel that we're going to produce per annum, that gives you your capital intensity. So essentially that means, you know, what is the cheapest project I can find where I can invest capital to get the most nickel out? And again, we're plotting in that first quartile, which is very important for any incoming strategic partners. Just as importantly these days, especially for the non-Chinese buyer of our nickel, will be the impact on the environment. Because we're a high-grade nickel sulphide project that is all near-surface open-cut mining and we're powered by renewables, we plot very favourably in terms of carbon dioxide per tonne of nickel unit produced. If we were producing today, we'd be in the top 6% of global production in terms of GHG emissions. And this low cost is all underpinned by not only the project being in Brazil, but the fact that it's a world-class deposit. So in nickel sulphide land, you've got more than 1 million tonnes of contained nickel metal you're considered world-class. And of all the deposits in the world that have more than 1 million tonnes, we are the highest grade bar one. And that BHP is involved in that deposit. So our nickel is completely unencumbered. We bought the offtake rights off Valley around about a year ago, and that gives us the ability to bring in a strategic partner that wants access to that nickel. We've had the resource since, we've had the deposit since 2020, and about 170, 180,000 metres of drilling has more than doubled the resource size. And just as importantly, it remains completely open at depth. So if you want to drill more and you want to find more nickel for future underground deposits, we can do that. We don't need to do that right now. That'll be something that'll be done 5, 10 years from now when there's exploration drives and the like. So we produced that resource at the start of last month, which was not the one that was used for the mine plan for the feasibility study. What can we do with it? Well, the first thing we can do is we can re-optimise the schedule. The feasibility study was constrained by the amount of nickel we could put through the plant due to a refinery that we had previously planned for the project. We've taken that restriction off. That means we can put as much nickel as we want through the plant. So we can go off and chase high grade. Higher grade means high recovery, means higher revenue, means quicker payback. If you run a 1% cut across the whole resource, you've got 30 million tonnes at 1.5%. And importantly, you've got 8 million tonnes in the top 100 metres. That means the mining engineers can go off, replan it, find the high grade, get it through the mill faster. And the drilling that we did up to the end of last year was about finding more resources down dip. And it did that very successfully. You can see there you've got 20 million tonnes of 1.5% nickel. When IGO took out Sirius about 10 years ago, the Nova Bollinger deposit was around 14 million tonnes at just over 2% nickel with some copper. So it's like having a Nova Bollinger sitting underneath the pit. We'll do a scoping study to try and find out how we can bring that online, and that'll be part of this Jaguar value engineering that we're going to complete in first quarter of next year. We're also talking to offtake partners. They're telling us a bit about what they want to see in the concentrate, and we're going off and tweaking the process route to try and get the best result for both parties. So we've started a strategic partner process with Standard Charter, signed a mob of NDAs. There is groups from end users, traders, operators, financial groups, refineries, all looking at our project, and we think in the next 3 to 6 months we'll find that strategic partner that we need. And the idea is to find us someone to come in at an asset level. So $370 million to build it, our market cap's 180, there's a gap there. We need to find a partner to come in and help us build this thing. So we get that strategic partner by the end of the year or early next year. We complete the Jaguar value engineering process and optimise the mine schedule. We get the environmental licence by the end of this year or the first quarter of next year, and we give that all to the board for them to make that final investment decision. Like Arrow Copper, 20-month, 2-year build, first production by the end of 2027. Just before we run out of time, we're doing a bit of drilling in the eastern part of the Carajás, about 20 k's from BHP's Antis North copper concentrator. We're about halfway through a 3,000 metre program. I hope to get some results out in the next 2 weeks, so keep an eye out for that. And if you have any questions, please come and see myself and Brooke in the booth just next door, and hopefully we're in the multi. Thank you.